Philadelphia is home to more than 400,000 people living in poverty. 5,000 of those people are homeless and forced to live on the street. Every day, thousands of blue-collar workers hustle past the homeless and don't even realize what they are going through.
In terms of an individual working to break the cycle of homelessness, one of the toughest struggles is addiction, which is a very serious chronic disease, and we learn more and more about it, the tenacity of addiction, the potential for relapse, the need for strong supports in place. But we're continually growing and learning more, and I think empowering our recovery programs and learning new ways to build a community of recovery that supports each other. Street homelessness is really just the tip of the iceberg of homelessness. It's the public face of homelessness, it's the predominant image, the person on the grate, the panhandler, but people who are on the streets really are only about 10% of the homeless population. You know, we were facing one of the biggest poverty rates this country's had since the early 60s, and it's barely being talked about.
About 50 million Americans live below the poverty line. 13 million more faced poverty when President Obama assumed office.
In the economic squeeze, millions of more Americans have found themselves economically vulnerable, and you know, the American dream isn't working the way it used to. They've played by the rules, they've worked hard, and yet they may lose their home, they may lose their job, and many do. And many fall into poverty or very close to poverty, and still there's a ominous silence about how much poverty is in the United States.
Just minutes from Kelly Drive lies hope at 1515 Fairmount Avenue at a place called Project Home. Here the residents have the opportunity they need to break free from poverty and addiction and get back to a better lifestyle.
Well, the basic mission is to empower individuals to break the cycle of homelessness, and ultimately really to end street homelessness in Philadelphia. We also, about 10 years into Project Home, we began working in a low-income neighborhood doing comprehensive community development, which in a sense is addressing poverty and the roots of homelessness, a way of preventing future homelessness. Then we also do political advocacy as a way of addressing the larger systemic and structural issues that cause homelessness and poverty. We say that the ultimate answer to the degradation of homelessness and poverty is the building of relationships and community. So while we are, on the one hand, a nonprofit organization, a social service agency with paid staff and a set of services to a certain group of clients, which is a word we actually don't use, we at the same time really see ourselves as a community of men and women who are all together sharing our gifts and working toward a common goal of ending homelessness and empowering each other to achieve our fullest potential. So the bottom line vision statement that we say at Project Home is none of us are home until all of us are home. The name Project Home is an acronym, HOME, and they helped us identify the 4 building blocks of what empowers people to not be homeless, and they are housing, opportunities for employment, medical care, and education. So those became the components of Project Home. And what's interesting to think about is they're not just the elements needed to overcome homelessness, they're the elements any person needs, you know, to have a stable, functioning life. They'd have a bed, they'd have meals, we would hook them up to any benefits so they at least have a stream of income. We would deal with frontline health issues, we'd plug them into mental health services, and ideally they get stabilized at a permanent residence and then can begin setting some goals. Our caseworkers would work with them on determining their past history, where they want to go, what their gifts and skills are, and they would then move on to one of our transitional supportive residences where there's a little more independence and they can work more on education and employment goals.
Mental health issues and substance abuse are the leading causes of homelessness. 70% struggle with both issues.
There are solutions to homelessness. Even the toughest cases of people who've been on the streets for 10, 15 more years, folks have done amazing jobs of overcoming homelessness. We know what kind of solutions work. We know what kind of programs and services and housing do make a difference. And the more resources we have, the more work we can do. So that's why in the past few years we've been talking seriously and realistically about ending street homelessness in Philadelphia. And we have a multi-year comprehensive plan in partnership with many other organizations to really develop enough housing units over the next 5 years that there should be practically no chronically homeless folks on the streets of Philadelphia anymore. everyone has a role to play. Everyone can be part of the solution. Everybody has some gifts to share, some talent to share, whether it's a donation, whether it's volunteering, whether it's being part of our political advocacy and contacting elected officials. That's a critical message and a hopeful one. And maybe the most important one is that the issues men and women who experience homelessness face are not different than the issues we all face. And so to solve homelessness is really to make this a better society for everyone. One of the amazing things about Project Home is just what a great community of men and women it is. I've really learned a lot over the years of my own dignity. I've learned that message that we all have struggles, we all have flaws, but we all have gifts. And it's been a real blessing to be in a community where we can celebrate each other's gifts. And I wish more people had that experience, that when we build community with folks who've been through particular kinds of struggles, it opens up a space for all of us to know our own humanity more deeply. And out of that, I think, can come a deeper passion for healing ourselves, healing each other, and healing our society.